Some people believe the 70s are so yesterday, or could it be the future? We'll find out this week on Motoring 2006.
TSN's Motoring 2006 is brought to you by the new Q from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Michelin, a better way forward.
This week we're on the beautiful island of Maui in the Hawaiian Islands, and we're here to talk about Volvo. And you know, years ago, Volvo cars were known for one thing: safety. And the people that bought a Volvo were only interested in safety. Now, there's nothing wrong with safety, but you know, over the past 10 years, when it comes to passive safety, most cars are built like tanks. And for people who like to drive a car rather than brag about how many airbags it has, well, it was getting kind of boring. And Volvo figured that out too. They thought, why can't we have safety and a little sex appeal too? So in 1997, they introduced the C70 Coupe, followed by the convertible. Now, it sold about 50,000 worldwide, was a modest success, but when was the last time you saw a C70 on the highway? In fact, they stopped building the coupe in 2000 and the convertible in 2004. Well, the C70 is back again, and boy, does Volvo have a deal for you. How about two cars for the price of one?
The term stylish Volvo was once considered an oxymoron. Well, not anymore. This week on Test Drive, we take a look at the car that's going to change the image. This is the all-new C70.
When the C70 first came out, it was the first Volvo with real curves to it, and it really took people aback. And even 8 years on from that car being developed and on the streets, we still had people walking up to us and going, wow, is that a Volvo? That's what it does for this brand.
This is going to be a car that's going to open up the world to Volvo, because we're seen typically as a functional vehicle for a modern family, versatility, also very safe. Clearly we've got exciting and sexy new product that doesn't compromise the foundations of Volvo.
With this car, we had to replace both a coupe and a convertible, and therein lied that was the challenge. There's a lot of convertibles on the market that when the top is up, they're still convertibles, and they're recognized as such. So what we wanted this car to be is, one day you're driving down the street and your neighbor sees you in a coupe, the next day in a convertible, he thinks you have two different cars. And so we really approached this with the top-up version first and made sure it was a credible proposal as a coupe, and then we went back from there and worked on the convertible side.
Two cars in one? Yeah, it is, I guess. You know, if you put the top up, and Lord knows back home we've got a lot of bad weather where you want the top up. You've got a hardtop coupe, but you've got a real true convertible with the three-piece roof retracted.
This is sharing technologies with the S40, so we don't really like to talk about shared platforms, we like to talk about shared technologies, but very much this is built off the S40. We're only going to have one powertrain for Canada. We're going to have the T5 engine, the 2.5 litre turbo, 218 horsepower. And you can either mate that with the 6-speed manual or the 5-speed Geartronic transmission.
It's going slow through the 1,000 curves we did yesterday. It's okay, but I think it's a bit underpowered. It's only 215 horsepower, something like that, and it's a heavy car, and it understeers. The basic model, the base model we had with the basic suspension was understeering. The one with the Pirelli P0 tires was much more neutral and much better. But I think it could be, they should have an R version of that with like 300 horsepower. It would give more credit to the chassis.
It's been the company's halo car, and I think it's even going to have a shinier halo with this new second generation. I don't remember when I've had so much fun going slow in a car. I had a lot of fun in this one. These are roads that really show off the capabilities of this new chassis. It's very, very stiff. No flex at all. It handles, I think, great.
It's an incredibly exciting time for Volvo, for cars that we all like to drive. The cars that fulfill the practical needs we need as motorists, but they give us a real jump when we go in the garage as well and turn the key and get behind the wheel.
This really is a great opportunity for Volvo, and it's the start of new product rollout over the next couple of years. We're going to have half a dozen fantastic new products coming out, and this is leading the way and opening up the public's eyes to Volvo and what we can offer. Just not versatility and functionality, but a great lifestyle choice and a sexy car.
It was a long project. I've worked on it for about 4.5 years, and to finally now see it come to fruition is really exciting. To see it on the road with other cars, you know, it's really satisfying.
Traffic is like the weather. Everybody complains about it, but nobody does anything about it. Well, I'm not going to complain about this weather, but I am going to complain about traffic. More later on Kenzie's Corner.
With the price of gasoline being what it is, the small car is becoming an increasingly more important part of the car industry. On this edition of Test Drive, the all-new Honda Fit. Now this car is not only economical to buy in the first place, it's also very economical to run. One of the most difficult tasks in this job is hopping out of a sports car and into an economy car. The problem with this is the massive come down and the vast differences in performance and handling. At times it means the econo car ends up getting short shift. In this instance, however, it proved to be quite an eye-opener, as the Fit is every bit as much fun to drive as many a fine sports car. If you read the shiny brochure that comes with this Fit, it tells you this 1.5 litre engine puts out 109 horsepower. The press kit, well, it tells you the same thing, but it's just not possible. This thing feels so much more powerful than 109 horsepower. So I sat down and thought about it for a while. The only conclusion I can draw, when they were dyno testing the engine, they were using three-legged donkeys, and they found it had 109 of them. When they put it into production, well, they took the donkeys out, ditched them and brought in four-legged thoroughbreds, because this thing runs real strong for a small engine. Kidding aside, the engine in its 109 horsepower and 105 pound-feet of torque delivers a surprising turn of speed. Now, while you're not going to break any land speed records, it will get you to 100k in a highly respectable 8.2 seconds, and it passes slower moving vehicles in a reassuring manner. Much of the credit, at least in the test vehicle, has to do with the 5-speed automatic transmission. By using numerically high ratios for first, second and third, the engine is allowed to rev up quickly off the line, and it's then kept there so the full benefits of Honda's VTEC system are realised. Unlike so many other small cars, however, when you do get to highway speeds, the engine is not revving its little heart out. At 120k, the Fit cruises quietly and efficiently at a low 2700 RPM. You know, given the price of the Fit, if you thought the interior was junked up, you could be forgiven. It's not. In fact, it's anything but. Very comfortable seats, nice plastics, wonderful radio that's got an auxiliary outlet for your iPod. You also get steering wheel mounted paddle shifters if you go with the sport model, cruise control right on the steering wheel, and comprehensive instrumentation. The only thing that's missing, a temperature gauge. Instead of that, you get a green light to tell you it's cool and a red light to tell you to pull over and stop. There is, however, a problem, and that comes in the form of the fabric they use on the seats. It collects more lint than a lint brush. So if you buy yourself a Fit, buy yourself a box full of these. They're very handy for keeping the interior clean. When it comes to handling, the Fit is overtly sporty. While this does mean there is some feedback into the cabin when the suspension encounters a sharp bump in the road, it's more than compensated for by the lack of body roll, pitch under heavy braking and squat under acceleration. Factor in the sport's large 195/55 R15 tyres and a responsive electrically assisted steering setup, and the Fit actively encourages the driver to challenge looping on-ramps. Only when the cameraman started to whine did I finally leave the skid pad. Given the dimensions of this Fit, the back seat room is absolutely amazing. However, that's not why you appreciate this car. Now, if you need more space, you simply lift the seat up and lock it in space. You've now got room for a bulky TV. If you need yet more space, simply lower it down, fold the whole lot down. Now you've got a flat floor and a ton of utility, more so than anything else in its class, and many above it. When it comes to the brakes, the fit again raises the bar, as anti-lock brakes are standard equipment. This is a very refreshing departure from the norm in the economy car class, where ABS is either not offered or it's bundled up in a package designed to dissuade the purchaser from taking it in the first place. They're also effective, as the front discs and rear drums deliver a short 39.1 metre stop from 100k. In the passive safety arena, the fit again fares very well, as it boasts 2 front airbags, 2 side seat mounted airbags, as well as drop down side curtains. You know, when all's said and done, fit really isn't a very good name for a car, but in this particular instance, it happens to be, pardon the pun, very fitting. Not only does it fit the driver and his lifestyle very well, the instant you get behind the wheel you feel at home, and the versatility will accommodate just about any lifestyle. The other thing it's going to do is cause every other manufacturer in the economical class to have an absolute fit. Why? Because this Honda Fit makes them all feel outmoded and outdated.
In some situations, the difference between a dynamic stability control in the vehicle and no dynamic stability control is in fact the difference between having some control and having none. And there were situations where when we turned the DSC off, instantly the car we lost control completely.
Ladies and gentlemen, the all-new 2007 Chrysler Aspen.
Can there be any doubt about the brand heritage of this SUV? The grille is signature Chrysler 300. The sculpted hood boasts crossfire inspiration, and everything screams Chrysler. As I suggested earlier, it is offered with the 5.7-liter Hemi. For even greater fuel efficiencies, customers can opt for the standard 4.7-liter Magnum V8. The Chrysler Aspen also has loads of safety features: electronic roll mitigation, electronic stability program, park sense backup detection, and side curtain airbags for all 3 rows. And just for the record, its bumper height is compatible with passenger cars. That's just one more SUV rule is broken. Aspen is a road responsible citizen.
We've been driving the C70s around the beautiful island of Maui. They've attracted a lot of attention, not because people want to go for a drive, but rather they want to see us demonstrate the retractable roof. Now, somebody asked me, what if my hand got caught? Would it be crushed? Well, I wasn't about to try it myself, but we did demonstrate it with an empty water bottle. You be the judge. Now that roof all but crushed that plastic bottle. Would it do the same to my hand? Well, I'm not going to be the guinea pig. Now, this may not be a problem unique to Volvo. It may be a problem with all retractable roofs. But what I don't understand is, why not, if you've got technology in a minivan that will keep an automatic sliding door from even bursting a balloon, why can't they use that in a retractable roof like this? Well, maybe one guy might have some answers, and that's our man in the Quaker State Garage, Bill Gardner.
Come on, Brad. No potential for injury, no fun. There's no such thing as a foolproof design. A real fool will always find a way. Anyhow, what we want to talk about this week is an interesting job that came in the shop last week. This Pontiac, it's a 99 Pontiac, about 130,000 K. Customer complaint was brake noise. They thought they needed a brake job, thought the brakes were shot. When they hit the brakes, there were some bad noises. I road tested the car briefly at kind of fairly low to moderate speeds, not braking all that hard. Really didn't hear that much. Brought the car in, pulled the wheels, expecting to find something when I did a visual inspection of the brakes. Now, while the brakes are far from new, they're also far from being worn to the point where they could cause any noises or problems. Lots of pad left, decent finish on the rotor. All the parts look pretty decent. But closer inspection revealed that the left front strut was in really bad shape. Also, we had a left front wheel bearing that had a lot of lash or a lot of play in it. We had a severe bend on the left rear wheel flange from an impact. Also, when we went to do the wheel alignment on the car, noticed that the left corner of the front subframe had some damage from a collision as well. We actually had a bit of setback on the left front wheel that we had to deal with. But the major issue that was causing the noise was this left front strut. What was happening was, when the car was under braking and the front end would normally dive down, there was an awful groaning. So under moderate to heavy braking, there was an awful groan coming out of that left front suspension. Replacing the front struts was the cure for that part of the complaint. Now, that's a fairly involved job. There's our old strut that came off the vehicle. You can see at the top there's a little bit of oil leakage and a lot of looseness in this strut. Pretty much all the hydraulic fluid has leaked out of it. That's the original unit from 1999, so it's not totally unexpected that it would be failed. Now, while it was apart, we had to change the boot that protects the top end of the strut. You can see that it's all chewed and torn at the top. And the strikeout bumper, this is a urethane bumper that when the suspension reaches full bottom or bottoms out, it prevents a slamming or banging sound, cushions the bottoming out of the front suspension. Now, fairly involved job. You need a spring compressor. You need to know what you're doing. Definitely some safety issues, not something for the do-it-yourselfer, and a fairly expensive job too. These struts are not cheap. They last a long time, but remember that strut in the front suspension of a vehicle like this essentially replaces the upper control arm and upper ball joint on the older type cars. This vehicle has a lower control arm and lower ball joint to position and control the bottom of the wheel, but the top of this wheel and knuckle assembly is positioned and controlled by that strut. Now, the strut also dampens the movement of the suspension just the same way a shock absorber used to do on the old cars. Pretty expensive part, fairly involved to change it. You need to do a wheel alignment when you're done. But the bottom line is, you'll save on tire wear, you'll get a lot better ride, a lot better handling, and your stopping distances will be improved as well. So improvements all over the car when you do a job like this. Now, these struts typically last at least 100,000 K, and sometimes more than that, depending on the roads that you're on. If you're on unpaved roads, you're going to shorten the life of them. If you're on asphalt and warm weather all the time, they'll last a long time, but they do need to be inspected on a regular basis. Look at your tires, look at your tire wear, do a wheel alignment, and make these inspections at least once a year or more. If you're putting a lot of kilometers on your car, you'll save on tire wear and you'll have a better handling car. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 2006.
Many years ago, my best friend moved from Toronto to Kitchener, and he said, "Jimmy, you got to come out here. You wouldn't believe it. A traffic jam is 3 cars at the same stoplight." Well, times change. The traffic in Kitchener now is a nightmare. The basic problem is the city appears to have been laid out by a bunch of drunken German engineers who threw a plate of Spätzle up in the air, and wherever it landed, that's where they built the roads. You want to meet at the corner of King and Weber? Which one? There's 3 of them. Crazy. Now, the city of Guelph, which isn't too far from Kitchener, it was laid out according to the town plan for Goderich. So the streets have no relationship to the topography whatsoever. My hometown of Toronto, well, it's no bargain either. They had one of the very first traffic computers to synchronize all the stoplights, but that was like 1964. I think it ran on an Apple II or something. Traffic now is completely hideous. And every city in Canada has its challenges. Vancouver, well, they're so much in love with the earth and the green and all that stuff, they don't build roads, so they don't have a problem. Calgary, well, they got multi-lane high-speed freeways with traffic lights in the middle of them. I don't get it. Montreal, well, don't get me started. You can't turn right on a red light there. Yes, still, it's now theoretically possible in Quebec, but Montreal says, no, because the pedestrians might get run over. Well, you sit at a traffic light at Montreal for about 7 hours. You feel like you can get out and plant a bulb while you're waiting. When you do get a chance to turn right, you're standing on it. And of course, the light's green for the pedestrian too. God rest his soul. Halifax, that's not too bad. They got roundabouts out there. That's pretty smart. Charlottetown, well, that's probably the best of all. I mean, rush hour there starts at 5 o'clock and it's over at 5:01. Newfoundland, well, it's got somewhat the same problem as Kitchener. They didn't have any bulldozers there, just paving machines. So they just paved whatever was there. So the intersections are absolutely amazing. But speaking of roundabouts, that really is the answer, and I wish we had more of them here. And the city of Waterloo, which is right next to Kitchener, actually has a couple of roundabouts. So maybe there's hope for Kitchener yet. I'm Jim Kenzie.
You know, I always liked the original C70, and although it wasn't a huge success, it certainly inspired the company to build some prettier cars. In fact, I remember on the original launch, one journalist said Volvo has finally decided to throw away the box and keep the toy. Now, it's not a cheap toy, and as I mentioned earlier, you're not going to have any room for those golf clubs in the back with the top down. However, it's a great looking car, it's a terrific drive, and hey, how can you not like 2 cars for the price of 1? That's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
The issue here is they're trying to become profitable in a marketplace that is incredibly competitive. We're talking margins of 3 to 7% profit margins. There's not a lot of money to be made, even if you're selling a lot of cars. So Mitsubishi's, certainly they've got a very short window to turn it around and make a compelling case for people to want to shop their dealerships.
TSN's Motoring 2006 has been brought to you by the new Q from Quaker State, Unleash All Your Horses, and Michelin, a better way forward.